Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Aaron.
Aaron is back, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day's a great day. Not to be in a cult. We are just going to have some easy, simple, lighthearted fun this evening. Tonight's video centers around one of my absolute all-time favorite podcast guests. That is former CIA spy Andrew Bustamante. When I first saw Andrew Bustamante on a podcast, I was I don't want to exaggerate too much, but it was a bit of a life-changing experience. I was like, I cannot believe there is a guy who has the background that he has, the experience that he has, and he is as good at talking about it as you could possibly hope for. I think I first saw Andrew on, it was either Danny Jones's podcast, the Concrete podcast, or it was Lex Friedman. See, Andrew lives near me. And we have at least 3 friends in common. So Matt Cox, Danny Jones, and Julian Dory are all friends with Andrew, have all had him on their programs. And if I had a clear vision of what I could talk to Andrew about and have it be Scientology related, I would invite him over and hope that he would accept the invite. I can tell you this. I was so impressed by Andrew that when because he was on Lex Friedman and then I was on Lex Friedman later. When I met Lex for the first time, one of the first things out of my mouth was, so Andrew Bustamante, holy shit. Okay, now I was chatting with Natalie before I went live here, and she goes, "Well, why don't you ask him about like Scientology's infiltration of the government or the Department of Justice and everything?" I was like, "Well, that's a great topic for a conversation, but what would Andrew like have to say about it? Like, what if he doesn't know anything about it?" And then she proposed, but you could talk to an actual CIA spy and talk about Scientology's pseudo spy wing and the various operations that they have conducted and get like just get his feedback on this stuff. And I think that is an absolutely amazing idea. Okay, so but why are we talking about Andrew tonight? Anytime, Andrew was on a podcast recently. I'll show this to you. He was on this podcast, this show, Lisa Bilyeu. Now, Lisa, you can see, has a massive YouTube channel. And just a week or two ago, Lisa also interviewed cult expert Rick Ross. And I think that's actually how Rick Ross ended up going on Natalie's program last week, is because Natalie saw Rick's interview and was like, I got to talk to this guy. And in the chat with Rick Ross, Scientology came up. So when you've got a channel as big as Lisa's, talking to a cult Scientology expert one week, and then the next week you've got Andrew Bustamante on talking about cults. Well, gosh darn it, I got to do something with that. So there's about a 5, 6, 7 minute segment here where Andrew and Lisa are talking about cults. And as I'm listening to this, it's just, it so resonates with me as a former Scientologist that I figured, let's just do a fun little reaction video to this. And I really like, I've already listened to this clip all the way through. I think I might stop and give you my thoughts on how I reacted to it the first time that I watched it. But I really want to know what you guys think about some of the stuff as well, because this is super, super interesting stuff. Okay, so we're going to start it right. Yep, we are queued up. Let's see. I hope I'm not going to get in the way of his face. All right, well, if I have to move it around, we will. Just let me know if the sound is okay when I hit play on this, you guys, if you don't mind.
Unfortunately, it's
okay. I have to set it up. In this clip, Lisa has just got done telling him a story about this doctor, or not really a doctor, but pretending to be a doctor or something like this, where he managed to convince a ton of people that he was like a world expert in this special procedure, this new device implanted in the throat or something. And just by convincing person after person after person, and like the word spreading, people became absolutely convinced of something that was completely false, which was that this guy had any studies or research whatsoever to back up anything he was doing. And he was like killing people by doing whatever he was doing so badly. Like there was no research, whatever, to support what he was doing. And she just got done explaining that to him. And then this is what he's saying.
It's a unique story, but not a unique case, right? There are multiple cases of people who can fabricate or lie, what we call fabricated CIA. They can fabricate a message, and that message can be adopted over a group of people. And from that group of people, once a message is basically just an emotional statement, once that message is shared with that group of people, each individual in the group is now hearing the message multiple times over, not just from the source, but from the other people in the group, right? This is a fantastic example of this is whenever you go to a local restaurant, when you find.
Okay, good. Before he gets into his restaurant example. So that's interesting. Now, one of the things that first comes to mind is that the way OSA, the Office of Special Affairs, Scientology's spy wing, the way they try to infiltrate a group, or one of the tactics they're using when they infiltrate a group is, and they actually have drills where they practice doing this, which I did a video about a week or two ago. They literally practice spreading rumors in a way where the rumor is then being forwarded within a group by other people in such a way that it never gets traced back to them. That's somewhat interesting, right? So then he's about to use an analogy. I got to tell you, I've listened to this clip a couple times, and I still struggle to fully understand this restaurant analogy, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on it.
Find like a local haunt. You go to your restaurant because you love it. Everybody else who's in the restaurant, guess what they're thinking? They love being in the restaurant. So then when you tap somebody on the shoulder, like, hey, isn't this the best coffee? Hey, isn't that the best pie? Hey, isn't this the best steak you've had in a while? Of course, they're all going to agree with you, right? It's from somebody from the outside coming in. That outside perspective is what tells you if you're actually dealing with something that's quantifiably or objectively better, which is why we all trust reviews of restaurants online more than we trust individuals who just say, oh, you should check out that restaurant. Nowadays, somebody's like, oh, you should check out that Greek restaurant.
Okay. I have to jump in here. Guys, let me know what you think about this. I do not trust online restaurant reviews. I do not trust Yelp worth a damn. It seems that has such a negative, doesn't have such a negative, it's so negatively biased. People go to usually write reviews for online restaurants when they're angry, or at least that's my bias. I mean, I never bother leaving online reviews for anything, but I feel like the only thing that would ever get me to go through the time and the trouble of leaving an online review is if I was that mad. I can't imagine being like, that food was so delicious, I'm going to go onto their website and tell them. I don't think my delight would be as much of a motivator as my fury and rage at the horrible food and service. That being said, I've still never left a negative review, but I have that bias that people who leave reviews are biased towards the negative. Do you guys agree with me on that or not? Okay, having said that, let's see how he continues here. I'll go back.
Down the street, you're like, trust reviews of restaurants online more than we trust individuals who just say, oh, you should check out that restaurant. Nowadays, somebody's like, oh, you should check out that Greek restaurant down the street. You're like, oh, I will. Google map, check that restaurant. Oh, it's only got 3.2 stars. That lady didn't know what she was talking about. That's how we work now, because we trust an outside opinion more than a micro opinion inside the community.
I think that.
Okay, good. And so I'm just going to wrap that up. Do you guys trust an outsider opinion more than a micro opinion within the community? If I was going to a small town, would I want to ask a local, what's the best place to get X, Y, or Z? Or would I do a Google search? I feel like I would ask a local, but maybe that's what makes me the perfect mark to be infiltrated or by a foreign government. All right, let's see where this goes.
Might also be then why cults work, right? Because you've got 10, 20, maybe 100 people all saying exactly the same thing to you. And so it's not just hearing from one leader, it's hearing from their followers as well.
So let's just take everything we've talked about and apply it to a cult, because it's super valuable to understand how cults are developed. A cult is a perfect example of know, like, trust happening in real time.
Okay, now this is interesting, and I'm sorry to keep. I probably don't have to pause it here, but they must have described this know, like, trust thing earlier in the podcast. Because when he first spits it out, I didn't know what he was talking about, and then he sort of kind of explains it. I really shouldn't have stopped it here, but he's about to explain himself. So let me just keep going.
Perfect example of know, like, trust happening in real time. You don't even know the cult exists at first, right? And honestly, you might meet a member of the cult before they say the cult's name at all. So you meet somebody who's already part of an organization that has an ideological belief system that is not in line with best interests of health or mental health or physical health or even social norms. So somehow you come to know of a person who's connected to that ideology. And then as you like that person more and more, you essentially fall into trust with that person. And then what do? They introduce you to the cult.
Hosting women events
Boom.
and showing up. And
Okay, she starts to do a commercial, which I'll fast forward through. Okay, when I was watching this clip, once he said that, I was like, boom, I've got my video. Now I've got something important to talk about on this video. What he just described as far as know, like, trust is actually how most people get into Scientology. It is not through sidewalk recruitment as far as how most people get into Scientology. Now, even the know, like, trust approach in Scientology is not very effective. There's a reason Scientology is shrinking. There's a reason there used to be about 100,000 active Scientologists in the late 80s, early 90s, and now it's closer to 20,000. So it's not that the know, like, trust is an amazingly effective way to bring people into Scientology, but it is how most people get into Scientology. And it's, anyway. So this happens. I have mentioned, I won't be too long-winded about this, but I have mentioned in many videos, and I'll mention in many more videos, that the Scientology business consulting front groups is how most wealthier people are recruited into Scientology. So independent private practice owners, dentists, chiropractors, veterinarians, financial advisors, physical therapists, occupational therapists. There are Scientologist-run business consulting front groups that operate on this know, like, trust formula to get people into Scientology. Okay, so first you sign them up as a business consulting client. You don't talk to them about Scientology. They get to know you through that relationship. It was know, like, trust. They know you, they like you, they trust you. And then at some point, and they see you as someone they know, like, and trust outside of the sphere of anything related to Scientology. And so then when you start to talk to them about Scientology, you have credibility as a person in their eyes, particularly if you've been a business consultant of theirs who has been helping them in ways that to them have been tangible and meaningful. And so I thought that was interesting because a lot of the exposure that we've had on YouTube to Scientology recruitment has been sort of in the context of protesting channels that, started out outside the Hollywood Test Center. And that is where Scientology sort of practices doing its sidewalk recruitment the most. Then we've seen other protest videos outside of organizations outside of Los Angeles, where there's people out on the streets handing out flyers. We haven't actually seen a whole lot of book selling, but sometimes and at different parks and different fairs and markets, we have seen the books set up and the e-meters set up. That's the sidewalk recruitment. But that actually doesn't follow the know, like, trust formula. And it is notoriously difficult to get people into Scientology that way. So because what he's about to talk about is how most people get introduced to Scientology, I thought this is worth doing. Okay, I'm fast forwarding through her commercial. I should probably just do her the favor of showing her commercial, but it's a little tacky, so for me to do that, so I won't. Here we go.
And cheers.
So now you've fallen into trust with a person. Now you know about the cult. And you like the cult a certain amount. Why? Because you like the person, right? It's Greek Orthodox, just like you said, right? So now you're like, well, I'll give this thing a chance because, Jim likes it. So I might as well give it a chance. And then once you're inside that cycle, then the cult is a giant organism that's designed to basically fulfill the needs of the right target of people, the right age, the right life experience, the right whatever. And and cults are a unique case because they're totally happy to let the wrong people out, right? So as soon as somebody comes in and they're like, you guys, this is a cult. Everybody in the cult says, no, it's not. And you're an asshole. So why don't you leave? So then all the people who know what it is get kicked out, and all the people who believe it's not a cult stay in. And then
that's just one of those things that has to be, of course, to a former Scientologist, that's going to completely resonate because, like, I've always felt that Scientologists are more inoculated than any other high control group or cult against being called a cult. But I don't know why. Why would I have any like, I only have my experience. Like, I only have my Scientology experience. I don't actually know what it is that allows me to feel that Scientology is most extra special inoculated against this. I think it's just because so much of L. Ron Hubbard's rhetoric was about how people in society are controlled and they're zombies and they're automatons and they're just operating basically under the commands of their reactive mind. And Scientology is all about freedom and freedom of thought and freedom of expression and freedom to be, do, and have. And it just, I literally, if anyone, when I was in Scientology, if anyone would have ever tried to call Scientology a cult or to be like, don't you think you're in a cult? I would just completely it would have completely discredited them in my eyes. Like, nothing they ever said beyond that point would mean anything to me whatsoever. It just wouldn't even matter. And so anyway, I guess what I'm being kind of long-winded about is that it's probably naive of me to think or to be confident that Scientology is uniquely that way, even more so than other groups. So I'm guessing that what he's saying would resonate with other people from other high control groups or cults, or, you know, even more extremist sects of some of the mainstream religions. But it's such a simple formula. It is such a simple formula, what he said. And yet it is so powerful and seems to so accurately summarize the Scientology experience. So much so that I actually want to listen to it again, if you don't mind. I'm just going to rewind a little bit.
And cults are a unique case because they're totally happy to let the wrong people out, right? So as soon as somebody comes in and they're like, you guys, this is a cult. Everybody in the cult says, no, it's not. And you're an asshole. So why don't you leave? So then all the people who know what it is get kicked out. And all the people who believe it's not a cult stay in.
Okay, good. This also jogged my memory of something me and Jenna were talking about the other night. And I had something had occurred to me for the first time, and I hadn't really dwelled on it that much, and I didn't really know what to make of it. But I just said it out loud, and I go, isn't it weird that Scientology has this thing where it kicks out people who actually want to stay there, and it tries to hold on to people who do not want to be there anymore? It never quite occurred to me that way. Just think of it for you former Scientologists out there. Think when someone's trying to leave or they say they want to leave, the organization has this reflex where it's like, no, you can't. No, we have to keep you. We have to hold on to you. And they will do literally almost anything to make that happen. And yet the people, particularly staff members and Sea Org members, that they end up getting rid of are people who actually want to be there. You end up with an organization composed of people who are sort of doing something they don't want to do. Anyway, that's probably too general to be completely accurate, but it feels really true. It feels really true when I felt it before, and it feels really true as I'm saying it right now. And I just think it's worth thinking about a little bit. But let's see what else Andrew has to say here.
And then you have this echo chamber of bad ideas. And once you are part of that cult, you're afraid of being rejected, because if you're rejected from this, you don't belong anywhere else. That's the right kind of person to be targeted for a cult. And you can very quickly see how they fall from like into trust because they trust that this is where they belong. This is what they deserve. This is their fate. This is their destiny, right? They already had, for the most part, they already had a negative opinion about themselves. They already thought they were an outsider. They already thought they were a reject. This is the place where rejects are accepted. This is where I belong. Even if I don't like it, even if it's weird, even if it's what my parents told me not to do, if this rejects me, then I'm truly rejected. And you can see how it all it festers and it lives in that space. And that's why so many cults can be abusive.
It's interesting, actually, as you were talking, it hit me that trust is kind of the poison to gut instincts.
Correct. Gut instinct.
Okay. We're going to have to talk about this one, you guys. Now, the title of Lisa's video is actually "Do Not Trust Your Gut. Signs that you're being used, manipulated, and lied to." Now, again, it's one of these things where the first thing he says, I have a problem with it, and then he explains it, and I go, oh, okay. So maybe I should just let him talk. So let me just let him talk.
Instincts are
poison to gut instincts.
Correct. Gut instincts are something that we train at Everyday Spy. We train people, do not trust your gut instincts.
I'm stopping it right there. Even though I know what he's going to say, I know how he's going to clarify it. The idea of trying to train someone not to trust their gut instinct seems to be so counterintuitive to human nature. I mean, I'll tell you how I feel. Let me know if you feel the same way. It seems like intelligence. I have this idea that intelligence should be tied to instinct. But I guess that's weird, right? Because instinct is supposed to be, you can't really control it. It's just natural. But intelligence is sort of natural as well. Doesn't it seem like someone who has really good instincts is someone that you would think of as being really intelligent? And so if someone has this idea, particularly about themselves, that their instincts are tied to their intelligence, how do you train someone not to trust their instincts? He does actually go on to clarify. So let me just let him clarify and then we'll talk about it.
You can't, because your gut instinct is tied to your emotional brain, your right brain. Your right brain is developed by...
I'm sorry, I gotta jump in. I hate it when people talk about left brain and right brain shit. That sounds like pseudoscience to me. I mean, what do I know, guys? I grew up in a cult, but it seems so cliche. It sounds like I'm insulting Andrew. Now Andrew's never going to do a video with me. I'm not insulting him whatsoever. I'm just telling you how I feel. When people talk about right brain, left brain, fucking, I go, oh Lord. That's just my thoughts on it. Let's let him talk.
You can't, because your gut instinct is tied to your emotional brain, your right brain. Your right brain is developed by evolution, right? By biology. It's designed to make fast, rapid decisions.
I can't help it, guys. When people refer to evolutionary biology to describe current human behavioral traits, I go, I don't believe that the evolutionary biologists know a goddamn thing that they're talking about. But what do I know, guys? I grew up in a cult. I don't even know why it bothers me so much when people talk about evolutionary biology and shit. I do not know why it bothers me so much, but it has become so popular in the podcast space to talk about this shit. I feel bad. It sounds like I'm talking shit about Andrew. I'm not. I would love to do a chat with Andrew about absolutely anything, but I can't help it, guys. We're having a fun little reaction video this evening, and I'm just telling you how I feel. All right, let's see where he's going with this.
Your right brain is developed by evolution, right? By biology. It's designed to make fast, rapid decisions. Well, the last thing you need is a fast, rapid decision when new information is presented to you. What you need is a slower, more calculated decision. So when your gut instinct kicks in, that gut instinct is based off of right brain thinking. Right brain thinking is shortcut thinking. It's not objective thinking. So while a lot of people out there love to disagree and be like, oh no, I trust my gut. I trust my gut. I trust my gut instinct. You can trust it all you want. Professionals in the field have been trained not to trust their gut instinct. You will not find a Navy SEAL that trusts their gut.
Okay, now that is the part of this video where I was like, what in the Sam hell is he talking about? How can you expect a professional operator in the field not to trust their gut? He does go on to actually clarify. No. It doesn't mean that you do the opposite of trusting your gut. It doesn't mean that you go, I cannot trust my gut. It's that, hold on. You might have an intuition. You might have a feeling. You might have a gut reaction, but that's not enough. You can act on that if acting on it is continuing to gather enough information to determine the truth. And I was like, okay, bro. I was like, come on, man. Come on. You got to, I feel like don't leave me hanging every time you say something and then you got to explain it. I really feel bad. It sounds like I'm talking shit about Andrew. I'm not talking shit about you, Andrew. I promise. But then, there was something else I was going to say there. There was something else I lost it. I'll get it back. All right, let's keep going.
You will not win my gut. I trust my gut instinct. You can trust it all you want. Professionals in the field have been trained not to trust their gut instinct. You will not find a Navy SEAL that trusts their gut. You will not find an FBI officer that trusts their gut. They might listen to their...
Every movie in the history of Hollywood is some federal agent solving a crime based on nothing but their gut. I have been deceived. I want my money back. And I want to speak to a manager.
Their instincts and pursue something, like explore something, but that's completely different than making a decision in a lack of information based off of what your gut instinct is.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, if you use it as a source of information, but you don't make decisions based on just that alone.
That's the way to do it. We were talking earlier about trained versus untrained people. What trained people will do is they will understand that there's something catching their attention about...
Okay. I got to stop it again. I didn't realize this video was going to become a roast session of Andrew Bustamante. Why did Lisa have to be the one to explain it in a way that made sense? Andrew, I apologize. I didn't mean for it to go this way. It's just, I'm having a lot of fun, okay? I'm just having fun. And then so she explains it in a way where I go, and then he goes, exactly. I go, yeah, Andrew, but she's the one who fucking said it, bro. All right. Andrew's never going to do a video with me. All right,
about a situation.
It's on just that. Like, if
in a lack of information based off of what your gut instinct is.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, if you use it as a source of information, but you don't make decisions based on just that alone.
That's the way to do it. We were talking earlier about trained versus untrained people. What trained people will do is they will understand that there's something catching their attention about a situation. There's something about this that's interesting to me, but why? Remember how I talked about no like trust? When it happens too fast, it's a red flag for CIA officers. That is an aversion of an instinctual reaction. I've trained myself to identify when I like somebody too fast. Do not trust them.
Andrew, if I just use this 8-minute clip as my case study, whatever, has a funny way of describing things that in the beginning sounds wrong, and then he follows it up. So for example, he just said, if I find myself liking trusting someone too fast, I've trained myself to go, do not trust that person. And I go, but wait, that's not logically sound. Maybe don't unquestionably trust them. But when he says do not trust them, that makes it sound like I don't trust them. Is that how you hear it? When he says, let's listen to it one more time.
Officers, that is an aversion of an instinctual reaction. I've trained myself to identify when I like somebody too fast. Do not trust them. I lose nothing.
Do not trust them. So if I'm liking someone too fast, I've trained myself to not trust them. I'm being really hard on the guy, I think. But to me, if someone's trying to teach me that lesson, I'm instantly fighting it. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. But let's see if he now explains it in a slightly different way.
By taking an extra 3 weeks before I trust somebody. I don't lose anything, right? But what I do is I take the power away from them to abuse or manipulate me. All the advantage comes to me. So when your gut instinct is there to flag something to your awareness, by all means, trust that something was flagged for a reason. But then explore what that reason was, explore what the reaction is. Do not trust the reaction.
Okay, again, I've got to take issue with that again, okay? Because he said we train ourselves not to trust our gut reaction. But in the last 10 seconds here, he goes, no. Your gut reaction was telling you something for a reason. Pursue it until you have enough information. And I go, yeah, but that means you are trusting your gut reaction to lead you. You're just not unquestionably accepting your gut reaction as the full, final, and true conclusion. Let's listen to that last part one more time.
To me, means trust. Instinct is there to flag me. All the advantage comes to me. So when your gut instinct is there to flag something to your awareness, by all means, trust that something was flagged for a reason.
If you're trusting it was flagged for a reason, then you're trusting that your gut instinct has some value and meaning. And then,
but then explore what that reason was, explore what the reaction is. Do not trust the reaction.
Okay, so there you go. I guess his approach in explaining things and my approach in explaining things is just honestly a little different. I think he first starts by making a statement that is so absolute that I find it disagreeable, but then he explains it in a way where I go, okay. It is so funny how many people in the podcast space thinks that Andrew Bustamante is like, what's the words they use to describe him? Controlled opposition, an industry plant. They do think that I'm just talking about the conspiracy theorists in the podcast space. They think that Andrew is one of these guys sent out by the CIA to put CIA talking points out into popular culture. Andrew's been on Rogan a whole bunch of times. He's been, I'm not sure if he's been on Lex more than once. No, I don't think he's been on Lex more than once, but he is a regular fixture on the podcast circuit. And I would highly recommend if you want to see what is the depth and breadth of the information that Andrew has to share. What are his takes on the intelligence world? How did he get involved in the intelligence space? How did he get recruited into the CIA? He was actually an undercover CIA operative. I mean, there's some people who actually don't believe any part of his story, but I guess I am just, I'm someone who would be very easily influenced and manipulated by a foreign intelligence agency because I believe everything I'm told, basically, guys. If it's in a podcast, then I believe it. No, I think Andrew's legit. I think he's great. I will tell you this. In the first, I think in the interview that he did with Lex Fridman, he did say that based on his knowledge of the situation in Russia and Ukraine, that there was absolutely no way that war was going to go on past the winter. Because of the problem with oil and just the brutal winter. He predicted that there was basically a 0% chance that the war was going to last past the winter. As we all know, the war has lasted much past the winter. So, I mean, look, there's 1,000 former intelligence guys out there. Andrew happens to be one of the best at talking. He happens to be very engaging. This isn't even a particularly interesting podcast appearance for him. Like, when I watched him on Lex, I was like hypnotized. The stuff that he's done. If you want to look at more Andrew Bustamante, go to Lex Fridman, go to Danny Jones, go to Matt Cox, and go to Julian Dory. He's a really fascinating guy. And he's got a partner now who's a former FBI guy. And so you got a former CIA guy and a former FBI guy, and they've got some company that I've heard them discuss, but for the life of me, I don't know what it is, but okay, let's see. We got a whole bunch of starred comments here. Let's see what we got. Queen Thetan, Aaron, I'm so happy to see you getting back to your style content. This is what got me to subscribe to you years ago. You are very good at what you do. Thank you. Thank you so much, Queen Thetan. I appreciate it. Joanne L. Oh, cool. Andrew Bustamante. Great watching him on Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. So inquisitive and knowledgeable. R. Palmer 339. Every day is a great day for the truth to be revealed. Thank you, Aaron, in this great chat community. Thanks for watching, and thanks for joining in the live chat, R. Palmer. Okay, Paula Candeloro. Inside the echo chamber, we believe as truth. Outside of it, we listen to more outlets. Yes. Okay. So the part where he was talking about, everyone in the restaurant, I guess what made that restaurant analogy difficult for me is because there's no situation where a whole bunch of people are just sitting in a restaurant talking. Everyone in the restaurant is just talking to each other about, don't you love this? And don't you love that? Like, it seemed like he was thinking like people at different tables and whatever it's almost like they all ate at the same restaurant every single day. And in order to be accepted in the community, you had to love the food in the restaurant. And I don't know, there was just something about that analogy that didn't resonate with me at all. But when I think about it in terms of a Scientology perspective, of if we call the restaurant is Scientology, and the people sitting at all the different tables are the public in the orgs like Flag here in Clearwater, who are all doing different services, maybe in different course rooms, maybe in different HGCs, different auditing actions. And they're all like, wasn't your L11 the greatest thing you ever did? And they're like, oh my God, it was like life-changing. And I just did my CCRD and I tested it clear. And they're like, oh my God, that's so theta. Like everyone's just running around telling everyone how great everything is. And in that context, the analogy makes perfect sense. Okay, let's see. Not Nitas Nook 519. Comfort in the known. You are so used to it, you think it is the best. You have no objectivity as you don't go anywhere else. Yes, see the concept I think is 100% sound. I totally get it. I totally get it. The problem that I was having was equating it to online restaurant reviews. Guys, come on. Online restaurant reviews have got to be massively skewed toward the negative. Please let me know in the live chat what your thoughts are. Do you trust online restaurant? Do you even bother looking up online restaurant reviews? Maybe I'm just not a foodie enough to go through the trouble of looking up online restaurant reviews. But you foodies out there, do you trust online restaurant reviews, or do you recognize that it's going to be skewed to the negative? I'm dying to know what you think. Nisa says, is Andrew Bustamante a former cult member? Not unless you call the CIA a cult. To the best of my knowledge, he was never in a what we would consider a cult or a high control group. Gia says, great content. Thank you. Let's get a balloon. Can I get a balloon? Oh, no, just a thumb up. Okay. Henry Badger. He is describing why our U.S. government uses Hollywood. Okay, I've heard that as well. A Skywalker 13, lady at the L. Ron Hubbard book table inside of San Diego. Lady at the L. Ron Hubbard book table inside of San Diego Comic-Con was not pleasant. Oh, I see what you're talking about. The L. Ron Hubbard. Yes, indeed. That was probably the staff manning that booth were probably from Author Services International. And those are very high-level Sea Org members, actually. I'm surprised they weren't pleasant. The last time the Comic-Con came to Tampa, well, actually not the last time, the time before that, Phil Jones's daughter, Emily, was going to be manning the booth, Emily Jones. And so I went to the Comic-Con to talk to Phil's daughter, Emily. And it's funny when I come into the vicinity of, like, especially privately, not like in a protest environment, but privately, come into the vicinity of a former Scientologist or a Scientologist or a Sea Org member. I tend to be actually very polite. I do not like instigating weird conflict with them. So I almost went up to her slightly apologetically because I knew that she knew who I was. Because, oh no, actually, what did she say? She said, I know you. You're married to Heather, aren't you? Because Emily knew my wife better than I don't know that Emily ever knew me, but she was like, oh, you're married to Heather. Yeah. So they knew each other in the Sea Org. I was like, yeah. I'm like, hey, look, your folks asked me to come and just say hi to you. And they would love to get back in touch with you if you ever leave. And she was just like, thank you. And I was almost like, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. I'm not trying to do anything. Genuine message. And I think she just recognized the best way to make this end as fast as possible is just to say thank you. And it's like, what am I going to do? Stand there and yell at her or something? No, of course not. So actually, I'm a little surprised that anyone manning that booth at Comic-Con would be unpleasant. That's actually a big surprise to me. L. Ron Hub Cult. Hi, Aaron, moderators in chat, and everybody from Denmark. Great to see you, Elron Hub Cult. Thank you for joining us. Old Frizz says, hard to imagine you being a hardcore believer now, Aaron. Yeah, I can understand why you would say that. I mean, but look, anything that I believe to be true, I think this is probably, you guys can probably kind of detect this. Anything that I believe to be true, I am pretty passionate about. And the funny thing about about Scientology and my belief in Scientology is that it was the big parts of Scientology that I believed. And a lot of the little parts I didn't believe at all and threw in the trash and had no qualms about doing so. Most of the PTSSP tech, I was demonstrably bullshit to me. There was enough internal inconsistencies and circular unfalsifiable logic that I was like, oh, this is all bullshit. I'm just going to pretend that I believe this. There was a lot of things about, well, there was just a whole lot of parts of Scientology that I just knew were kind of bullshit. But the big parts is what kept me there. The prison planet story. That Earth is a prison planet. The implant stations, the between lives implant stations that Scientologists believe that, you know, when you die or drop your body, you as a spirit are sort of pre-programmed to report back to the between lives implant station, which is the light at the end of the tunnel. That's why they say don't go towards the light, but you get sucked towards the light and you get trapped and they wipe your Thetan memory and they shoot you down into a body, and this happens to you lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And that's why Scientologists view these bodies as prisons and this Earth as a prison. And the people running the implant stations are evil alien psychiatrists. And it's kind of like, and I say this at the risk of offending religious people, don't take offense. It's like if you convince someone that there is a heaven, no matter what, there's a heaven. And if you're good, when you die, you're going to go there. It doesn't really matter what the different chapters or verses or, you know, whatever's of the books of the Bible say. It doesn't really matter how your preacher behaves. It doesn't really matter how fellow Christians behave, as long as you believe in the big piece. There's a God, there's a heaven, and if I'm good, when I die, I'll go there. You will put up with an unbelievable amount of bullshit or stuff that you don't really believe in if you believe in the big piece. And that's kind of how I think about my level of belief for my time in Scientology. I believed in the big pieces. And beyond that, the job of being a staff member or a Sea Org member, you don't wake up in the morning like thinking you're like accomplishing some giant grand, purpose. You're just doing your damn job. Right. And so at some point, me being in the Sea Org was just a matter of waking up and doing my job as best as I could in a way that would make my senior as least angry at me as possible and make me as most likely as possible to be able to have some pizza and soda and watch a movie on Friday night at Org Awards. And that's basically what life becomes. And then you have this weird pressure of how hard it is to leave the Sea Org. And how embarrassing it is to admit that you don't want to be there anymore. I was in the Sea Org for 4 years. I probably wanted to leave after the first 6 months. And it just has its own inertia, So anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but I guess what I'm saying is I can understand why someone watching me now would be like, it's hard to imagine you ever believing in Scientology. But if you know my personality, and if you know how enthusiastic and passionate I can get about things I believe in, I think in some ways it's very easy to imagine me having believed in Scientology. But, either way, thank you for the comment. C.O. Bilf, Mooney's in bed with U.S. and Korean intelligence from the outset. The CIA knows Kubrick and Brisker. You're not talking about Mitch Brisker. There must be another Brisker. The CIA knows Kubrick and Brisker directed. Oh, this is a joke. Wait, directed the moon landing footage from a Hollywood. Oh, just kidding. Okay. Jesus Christ. All right. Thank you, C.O. Belf. Power lies to paralyze. The cult is a stage 5 clinger psycho group. Yeah, I like that description. Dave's deep dives. I think Scientology is somewhat unique because of the bull baiting training. Also, the Dutch care package is being assembled. Oh, is that for me? Am I getting a care package from the Netherlands? Oh my goodness, that would be amazing. AA says, I really did not want to go to the org, but I forced myself to because I was basically threatened. Yeah, that can definitely happen. Kristen Frost, laser beams. Any religion that gets deep into politics in order to force something to happen is not genuine, in my opinion. All righty. Abraham says the left and the right side of the brain is not pseudoscience. Abraham, that's what they want you to believe. By the way, when I say I've got this huge button on people always using evolutionary biology to explain human nature, please don't. I don't have a problem with the theory of evolution. I hope that's not I hope that's not what it sounded like. To be honest, even Scientologists believe in evolution. They just believe in their weird L. Ron Hubbard version of evolution. It's just, I don't know, guys. I don't know. So many podcast conversations end up devolving into how chimps behave to explain how we behave. Now, it's not like I'm completely ignorant as to why the conversations go that way. It just seems like one of these things that sounds really good. Anyway, I'll stop talking about it. Jeffrey Augustine says professional operators cannot trust intuition. There is a decoupling needed to be analytical in program work. Well, that's definitely consistent with what Andrew is saying. It's funny because it seems really counterintuitive, but I can see how sometimes being counterintuitive is what you would need to avoid the pitfalls, the logical and analytical pitfalls that people so easily fall into. I think a good way to think about this is movies that have like massive twists, kind of like The Sixth Sense, where you go, the information was there all along. Like, it's just a perfect example where you're being fed certain information because they intentionally want you to come to the wrong conclusion. But you're so confident that you know what's going to happen because of the information. And this is an example where if you follow your instinct in that situation, it's a perfect kind of example of how it would go wrong in life. You're so confident based on the information that you have, but you actually don't know what you don't know. And I guess that's where trusting your gut comes in. Your gut, your instinct is only based on what you know or what you think you know. And it doesn't allow for what you don't know. You don't know. All right. We got Barb here, SBTV Tattoo Warrior. Scientology doubles down because they don't just brainwash you. They expect you to brainwash yourself. The internal pressure to write KRs, knowledge reports, the internal drive that convinces you that you must disconnect if you leave. Very insightful and very true. Thank you, Barb. Matt's mom, forever. Just came to a realization. Scientology isn't the only cult. Think about it. Government, politics, music, movie industry, big pharma. We are being mind controlled every day. Yep, there's truth to that. Colleen K. I believe it is because it is mixed with the emotions. Aaron, you are off the charts tonight. Well, thank you very much, Colleen K. I choose to take that as a compliment. We've got Chance in the chat. Chance Ammirata. Hello, Chance. Good to see you. Chance is the one who the foundation was able to help get back to Colorado or get to Colorado this past weekend, also with the help of Stephen Mango and his viewers. So good to see you, Chance, and welcome. Philosophy says, Aaron, they don't use just gut instinct. They are trained. Gut instinct is emotional, so they don't use emotions to make decisions. Yes, indeed. Philosophy says, yes, Aaron, he's saying that you use the gut instinct to raise awareness about something, but you don't emotionally react or trust it. Yes, indeed. Lydia von Stretchclaw. His direction is not unlike that of Gavid de Becker, who literally wrote the book. Okay, I know this name, but I have to look it up again because I could not for the life of me tell you what Gavid de Becker is known for. Gavid de Becker is an American security specialist and author. Oh yeah, he's in all the podcasts, this guy. He has worked for governments, large corporations, reportedly a billionaire. Oh, no. This must be different than the guy that I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking Gavid de Becker. I'm not thinking this billionaire is doing a lot of podcast appearances. But okay, thank you, Lydia Von Stretchclaw. I appreciate it. Abraham says, I use this as an example. When I'm hesitant to do something and someone asks me why, I respond that I can't give an answer right now, but I trust there's a reason why. But you're trusting your gut instinct there. But anyway, I do understand. I do understand. Power lies to paralyze. More of this type of content, please. Hashtag Xenu was framed. Yes, I mean, look, the best kind of content is the content that you really love doing. And we're here to have fun, guys. We're here to have fun and be as informational as possible. But if we're not having fun and we're not at least entertaining ourselves, what are we doing here, folks? Okay, Old Frizz says, Aaron has me literally LOLing tonight. Well, thank you. Justin Maxwell says, considerable data suggests that a mere distributed intuitive network may feed into a predominantly right hemispheric insight-based functional neuronal architecture. Well, Justin, that's what I always say. You know what I mean? Okay, let's read it again. Okay, this is talking about, I guess you're commenting on the validity of the left brain, right brain narrative. That's what they want you to believe. Okay, considerable data suggests that a more distributed intuitive network may feed into a predominantly right hemispheric insight-based functional neuronal architecture. That's what my mom had posted on, the refrigerator. So I just saw it every morning when I woke up before, as I getting the milk out of the fridge to make some breakfast. It said exactly that. All right, guys, just having a little bit of fun here this evening. That's all I got for Andrew Bustamante. Andrew, hit me up, bro. Call me. We'll do a podcast. We'll talk about Scientology. We'll talk about CIA. How about the idea that a lot of people, some people, think that Scientology was actually taken over and is secretly run by the CIA? Maybe Andrew Bustamante can shed some light on that for us. But honestly, even if Andrew just wants to talk to me about Scientology, I just want to do a podcast with Andrew Bustamante. I think the guy's an absolute star. Okay, guys, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you, as always, for watching until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside